everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Who Knows What with Mahesh and Friends. Someday, whoever feel brave enough to come on my show. Anyway, jokes aside, I wanted to make today's episode about conflict and religion and how we as a society, a culture, a people need to realize that we are the descendants of those who came before us, who laid the foundation for what we speak about today, what we fight about today, what we argue over today, are not really our thoughts and ideas. Nothing wrong with carrying forward the foundations laid down by our ancestors, but if we are to progress and become intelligent and evolve and be conscious and grow, we have to always be willing to challenge the past in order to create a new present and future. We have to always be willing to understand that as we move through time in a linear fashion, that things change is what I'm trying to get at, okay? If we move, for example, at one point in the history of humanity, it was accepted and okay to own other human beings as slaves. It was even a religious thing. It was normalized, but it took people questioning and asking, is this the manner that we should treat our fellow man? And is there a way to govern and run our economics around the world in a different way where it is more fair and equitable? Thus enters capitalism. Capitalism, the idea of it was always around, but in terms of modifying it and modernizing it, it's still slavery. It's just more of a shared slavery. Then other ideas came along like communism and socialism and a lot of other isms, which is supposed to happen. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. That's how we play with different concepts and ideas. And we have countries all over the world where we've tried a little bit of everything. And we saw what worked and what didn't work. And we're still constantly tweaking and adjusting. So much so that we've had new ideas. Like the ideas from Buckminster Fuller, of a future thinker, ideas from Einstein, ideas from Jacques Fresco with the Venus Project. These people have all presented new ideas of a Star Trek economy and a new world of living that's a level up from where we are now. And even as we speak, there are more ideas evolving and growing. So the point of what I'm trying to say is we need to learn to normalize and accept that this is the way progress is made and we keep moving forward. We cannot continue with this mindset of kicking back, being lazy, and just being born into like a non-player character, an NPC, if you will, for those gamers out there who know what I'm saying. Being an NPC means that you have been told from the time you were born what to think, how to speak. Your environment created you. But when you become conscious, that minute that the switch goes off in your brain and you start becoming conscious, you start asking the question, why? Why is this the way we do things now? I want to tell you a story I heard in a seminar I did some years ago. I used to go to a lot of different seminars when I was trying to self-help and growth, like Tony Robbins and, all these other coaches and guys out there who try to make you better salespeople. And one of the stories that I remember vividly was the story of the mother and daughter. The story goes like this. So a mother was in the kitchen baking bread, and her daughter was watching her make the bread. Kneaded the dough, rolled everything out, put it in the bread pan, and then she noticed something peculiar that she didn't quite understand. The mother cut the ends of the bread off on either side and put them in a separate pan to bake. Now, it was puzzling to the girl because what the girl didn't understand was what she saw was the dish was big enough for the bread that was being made. So why did the mother cut the ends off? Okay. And the mother said to the daughter, I do this because this is what grandma did. Okay. So the daughter learned how to make bread, and then she got married and she went off and she started baking the bread. And she followed the same routine and cut the ends off before baking it. One day, the whole family was gathered at the daughter's house, and the grandmother was in the kitchen, and she walked up to her granddaughter and noticed that while she was baking the bread, she cut the ends off of the dough to put it in the oven. And she stopped her granddaughter and said, why are you cutting the ends off? And the daughter said, Mom said that this is how you did it. And the grandmother smiled and said, honey, when your mom was growing up with me, we were poor. And we didn't have the size bread pan that we needed. So I would cut the ends off to make it fit. But you all have the size bread pans you need. So you do not need to cut the ends off. That story stood out to me for a very important reason. How many of us are carrying on traditions, behaviors, ideas, thoughts, concepts that we bring from the past without realizing that the circumstances under which those ideas and thoughts were created and founded were under different environmental circumstances to what we have today? And so we must be willing to have the conversation of if that particular idea or concept is obsolete and needed anymore. Because we are growing at an exponential rate right now as a species. We have been connected like never before in the history of our kind that we know of. Of course, there's a debate that in the ancient time of the Anunnaki, blah, 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 we were probably an advanced civilization that seeded the earth, and we are a product of that. Fine. Have whatever theory and idea you want. I'm talking about us, this species, right now, right here, this moment, connected around the globe, through the internet, with the instant push of a button. We can talk to each other on this phone. We can have conversations in a split of a second, no matter where we are on this planet. And so now ideas are moving at a rapid rate. cultures are mixing: Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Jainism, Judaism, you name it. All these global cultures that once were isolated and thought that their idea was the idea, they were the one, they were the chosen people, they're the ones that God's gonna save, no longer matter. Because guess what? You've met other humans who feel the same way about their culture, their beliefs, and where they're at. So what do you do in a situation like that? What do you do in a situation where people are now connected? And what do you do when you start realizing that the way the earth is operating right now doesn't have to operate this way? Not when people are waking up and having conversations and becoming interconnected and sharing information at a phenomenal rate, at a velocity like never before in human history. What do you do then? How do we move forward with this? How do we grow? How do we evolve? How do we get better? We get better by accepting that maybe we don't know anything. That's the first thought you have to have in your own mind. I don't know anything. When I was born on this patch of land. I was given this name. I was told to have this religion, to eat this food, to speak this language, to have these labels, to get this job, to be a certain way. That's what I was given. I was born into it. But then to become conscious, to consciously awaken means that you ask the question, why does that matter? If we're all human beings and we all live on the same planet, just because I was born on this patch of land and you were born on that patch of land doesn't mean anything other than you were just born on a different patch of land. That's it. And you speak a different language. So the question has to become, what would it take for us to work together, to be united, to develop, to innovate, to invent, to create? And I would have to come back to philosophy. If we want to progress the species forward into the future, yes, I know we're up against dark forces right now, and we're dealing with evil people in the world who want to dominate and control and profit, who want to make money off the backs of others. Just because slavery ended does not mean that the morality that allowed slavery to happen still doesn't exist. I'm not that naive. I am aware that that ideology and that philosophy still exists in the world. But today, the world is a whole lot better and opportunistic than it was 250, heck, 60 years ago. Our ancestors are probably happy where we are now today. This is why I don't buy the idea of being a victim and buying into the philosophy that we are oppressed by the white patriarchy and men dominate everything and I can't do for myself and I need somebody to come in and save me, like a political party or a religious organization or something, which, by the way, they don't. No one's coming to save you or me. Heck, they can't even save themselves. Think about that. So why do we all fall asleep to the lullaby of lies that they tell us every day on the media, on the feeds, on the freaking commercials, with their religions, with their politics, with their lies that they give us every day? Why would you even bother trying to comfort yourself? We are supposed to be uncomfortable all the time. We're supposed to embrace discomfort all the time in order to grow. We're supposed to poke each other and jolt each other and converse with each other and make each other uncomfortable enough so that we're each individually willing to think through and use the brain, the God-given, almighty, infinite, abundant antenna brain of ours that can tap into the cosmos and travel the universe. I mean, the magnificence of this God-given organ that we have that's tapping into a much larger consciousness that's out there. And when we tap into it, we can have deep, profound, meaningful conversations with respect to evolution and evolving and moving forward. Everything in this world that we interact with, that we can see with our eyes and touch, all this shit, all this crap, okay? All this crap is designed to keep us divided against each other. To not try to dig deep into deeper meanings and deeper understanding and have profound epiphanies and discoveries through meditation and being alone with yourself and through having meaningful discussion with each other. Instead, we have become so lazy that this does the thinking for us. I've played around with ChatGPT and AI. I enjoy it. It's a fun tool. I have fun with it. But I don't let it think for me. It may help me write an essay or clean up my grammar or something like that. But the last thing I want is this thing thinking for me. And that's what's happening with social media. You would be speaking to someone and they're regurgitating back to you what a news anchor told them, something they read on the feed, a meme, and they haven't done any research. They haven't gone out of their way to find out anything or look anything up or investigate anything because they don't have the time. No one has the time to do that work. So they depend on information to give them the ideas and the thoughts. That's a form of laziness. That's not intellectual. To me, I don't see that as intellectual. That's an NPC, non-player character. And I encounter them every day. I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm a high school dropout, a university dropout. Got my GED, didn't finish. I'm in the workforce. I do read a lot. I do watch a lot of documentaries and read a lot of papers and read books. I also have audiobooks. I watch hundreds of thousands of podcasts and I am debating and arguing with people online all the time. I stimulate my brain the best way I can in my own way. Because I am curious. I like to learn. I like to keep growing. I like to keep pushing the boundaries and the limits of my own mind. Like somebody would walk up to me and say, hey, I believe the earth is flat. And I wouldn't shun them. I wouldn't chase them away and say, you crazy kook, the earth is round. No, I engage that person because I want to understand why you think that. Something led you to that thought. And maybe we'll discover in the conversation why you were led to that thought and maybe address that issue. Maybe in my conversation with that flat earther, I discover that he has a mistrust for institutions and the media and the politics and the world at large because he's been lied to his whole life and he feels betrayed. And underneath all that betrayal, he was left to conclude something like that because he was shut out and shunned and outcasted from society. This is what happens when you have a closed-minded approach to conversing with people. Somebody will walk up to me and say, hey, I don't think dinosaurs existed because, and then they let me know why they have arrived to that conclusion. And then I have a conversation with them. I present some evidence for my case. He presents some evidence for his case. And usually somewhere in the middle we'll figure out why this information has happened. Right? Because why? Free speech, free dialogue, free movement of information allows the truth to be revealed. The minute you start shunning and censoring and blocking and pushing information away because it happens not to be convenient to your brain, you have allowed yourself to become an NPC. Forgive me, I'll speak to a Muslim. I'll speak to a Hindu. I'll speak to a Jew. I'll speak to a Christian. I'll speak to anyone. Because I want to truly, deeply, honestly understand them. They were born on another patch of land just like I was. They learned a different language just like I did. They ate different kinds of foods just like I did. They had a different circumstance for their existence just like I did. But I know the truth. The one truth is, we're all the same cosmic energy expressing itself in different bodies with different variations of environmental factors. And once you come to that understanding, you have been revealed into what awakening truly is. Don't waste any more time, folks. Engage with this world. Talk to people. Have conversations, have debates, have arguments. That's what this is for. That's what discourse means. That's what waking up consciousness and evolution means. That's what revolution means. We must make it normal to have these conversations again. Enough is enough, folks. Let's wake up, rise up, and own up to what we truly are. We are magnificent, amazing quantum beings, man. Have you ever stopped to notice the magnificence of what we are? The beauty of what you and me are? The fact that we could build a house, build a car, do art, science, math, all of it. The complexities and the diversities, and within the same moment of existing, you could go from a wide range of emotions and back to the same emotion you started out from. Like an accordion. You can have in the same room one type of conversation with one person and another with another, and then just be fascinated with you. Be fascinated with yourself. Be fascinated with the conversations you're having with other versions of you. Be fascinated. It's fascinating to me. And I don't ever put someone down. I never say that they're stupid or they're ignorant or they're dumb or whatever. That means nothing. Because there are moments when I'm dumb, when I'm ignorant, when I don't know something. But I'm humble enough to accept and own that. And so I ask you that when you're in a moment of feeling superior and almighty, that you're in the know and that person doesn't know, stop for a second and just look at yourself. And then look in the mirror. I do it every day. Do I really know what's going on? Sometimes I disagree with people fervently. Like to the point where I will not... I think to myself, how could this person not want to hear another point of view? But then I remember, it's just that some people are afraid. Some people live in fear. Some people were just born in an environment that didn't cultivate courage and a willingness to explore and go beyond the limits of their own minds. So they have to find doctrines to live by and dogma. They need to have a group to belong to, a tribe, a way of thinking, a foundation. Some people cannot operate outside the confines of those parameters. And if you pull them out too quickly, they could become violent and destructive. So I too have had to learn that even though I'm very confrontational myself, I personally have been learning to know when to inject confrontation, if that explains myself a little better. I've had to learn when and where to say what to who. Because I'll be in a room and I will be around an NPC, so to say, and I'll hear them talking and I'll think to myself, oh, this is a great opportunity to maybe enlighten them with something or give them something I heard or a fact or something. And I'll realize, wait a minute, I gotta be careful. Because this person may react irrational because they're not comfortable pushing the boundaries of their own mind. That's why they have to eat a certain way, follow a religious practice a certain way, have a structure and a routine a certain way. And that's why their soul came here. They're here to live that way. And that's them. But where I do push back is if that person tries to tell me that what I think or what I'm expressing or how I feel or what knowledge I have is wrong, then hey, my dukes are up. I'm ready to defend mine. Can you yours? And most of the time, they're cowards because they hide behind this thing called political correctness, victimhood, racism, and I do not have to dignify that answer with a response. Those tactics. Or they would reduce the conversation to an attack on character. And I've encountered this since about 2016. I've noticed that shift in the American culture where it's becoming tyrannical but disguised in a so-called compassionate self-esteem movement kind of way. But it's not really a good thing. If you think about it. It hides, it's a philosophy that hides behind virtue signaling, victimhood, and political correctness. And they use words like, you'll notice it, like you'll be saying something and say, let's have some decorum. When you're expressing your truth, how you feel raw, honestly, in that moment. Right? You'll see it, guys. It's out there. Like, that's how I realized that this culture of NPC culture was amplifying at a rate like never before. I began realizing in the circles around me who were NPCs and who were the awakened ones. And the awakened ones, we're still friends. We hang out, we talk, we engage, and we all disagree. We don't agree on anything. And that's the part I love. I love that they challenge me and I challenge them back. And it works out great. And in the end, we find some way to find common ground and work together or have activities together or, And then the NPCs, they're more like, when they're cowards. So what they do is they label you, they try to character assassinate you, they avoid the discussion altogether and they go with ulterior tactics. And that's how you discover that you're dealing with an NPC. They're not capable of pushing the boundaries of their own limitations, so they have to attack you in a different way. Call you a racist, call you a tyrant, call you all kinds of different names I've been called. Guys, I've received death threats. I've been told that I should lose my job, end up homeless, be poor, my family should get cancer. I mean, I've been told so much nasty shit by people who identify as righteous people. People who say that for me expressing my political views and my ideas about the world is wrong to them, so therefore I should be punished, outcast, censored. And Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, they do censor me. I see all the notifications that come in showing me that they've been shadow banned. Or people reach out and tell me, hey man, I'm not seeing you in my feed like I used to. Stuff like that. So that's what we're up against, folks. And I just wanted to leave this message with everyone, anyone who's listening to me, which it's shadow banned or censored or blocked anyway, but this is how I express myself. I enjoy doing this after work, and I've been trying to do it more often, but I have this, and then I have my vlog channel where I try to share a little bit of my life from my point of view and my travels or whatnot. And, because I'm an artist, I'm trying to create art. I'm trying to discover who I am in the process. And I'm trying to develop a multitude of things as I'm doing this. That's why I'm here. That's why I went online. I got online because I was kind of pushed to. When I started getting the kickback I was getting from family and friends and people I loved dearly were reaching out and saying, you need to get off the internet. You need to stop saying things that you're saying. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your relationships. You're going to lose this. You're going to lose that. And something snapped in me. I knew right away I had to keep going. Because what kind of world do I want for the generation coming after me? What world would it be if I just laid down and took what everybody told me out of fear? Out of being scared? What world would that be? And especially in a country called the United States of America, land of the free and home of the brave. Where is the bravery in all of us? Now we've become a nation of soft cowards, afraid to lose this and lose that, and what if that happens? And what did our ancestors and forefathers who developed this nation think that way? They had a lot to lose. In fact, many of them lost their lives to found this nation. Many people lost lives. Slaves, natives, and these people, our founding fathers. Again, I am a benefactor of that history. I am a benefactor of all the bloodshed in the world that led us to this point. I'm not going to play the game of white guilt or any guilt, because that's not how we move forward as a nation, as a people, as a society, as a culture, and as a consciousness. How can we expect to evolve and grow if all we're doing is pointing fingers about who oppressed who back in 250 years ago, 300 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago? What good does that do? How does that help us move forward and elevate? What kind of conversations are we having right now with each other? It's ridiculous. We need to wake up, people. You need to look around with your eyeballs. I see a wonderful America, a wonderful world. We can go anywhere in the world right now and we'll be accepted. Whether you're a Jew, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever, Jehovah's Witness, doesn't matter. Almost anywhere we can each travel in the world and we would be embraced and accepted because we've connected each other through things like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, and sharing, cross-culture sharing. That's the world that's developing right now. And we have people here sitting talking about why we need to tear down statues and we need to fight the white man and do all this stuff. And people, what nonsense are you participating in? How many of you remember the 80s with that song, We Are the World, We Are the Children, we are the ones that make a better place for you and me. And then Michael Jackson went, there's a choice we're making, we're changing all the world. Whatever, I probably singing the song wrong, but close enough. I grew up with that music. I grew up watching that on TV, public TV, in Trinidad and Tobago. That was that was the world I was growing up in. And then somewhere around 2016, Trump becomes president, and all of a sudden the narrative switches. We got riots in the street. everybody with their fist up about black oppression. And in the end, who is it serving? Not the communities that these riots took place in, that were destroyed. Not the black men who have been jailed for misdemeanors. Not the people who are truly suffering at an economic level, because what we need is economic policy that helps people, not fighting about who enslaved who 250, 100 years ago. That gets us nowhere. In fact, it's a weaponized tool to manipulate you to be fighting against your fellow brothers and sisters. We inherited this land. All the native deaths, all the slavery, all the wars, all the civil wars, everything. We inherited this country. And we live in a magnificent country that has a multitude of diversity. We inherited it. I didn't grow up in the Civil War era. I didn't grow up in slavery. We inherited this Walmart mall, freaking interstate truck stopping country. That's what I was born into. That's what I'm experiencing in my daily life. Do I experience some form of racism here and there and prejudice? Yeah. Who doesn't? White people experience it. Black people experience it. Indian people experience it. Latinos experience it. Asians experience it. And it's crisscross because every group does it to every group. I've witnessed it myself. Seen it with my own eyes. My own family is mixed across 5 or 6 different ethnic groups and races. My own family. My own bloodline. Think of how many more bloodlines are like that. White people ain't white anymore. They got so much mixture in their own family gene pool. Have you been to a white person's house? They got like a Filipino wife with kids and Italian wives and an Indian wife, and they're mixed now. So this ideology that's being pushed of division and slavery today in modern time is a weapon. It's a weaponized tactic, and it's being used to pit you against your fellow man. And this, my friends, is how I ended up in the Trump camp. Do I like Trump? Hell no. Do I think he's the best thing for America right now? No, not really. I like RFK, I like Tulsi Gabbard, and there are a few more people I like, but they're not in the running. But the only reason I chose Trump was because I went to his rallies and I listened and I paid attention to the rhetoric he was pushing. You know what his rhetoric is? You want to know what Trump's evil rhetoric is? That we're all Americans. We all fly under the big red, white, and blue banner, regardless of what race or ethnic group you come from, and we all are going to make this country great again. I was there. Not what you saw the clips on CNN and MSNBC and all these other news channels telling you about Trump. I went. I was there. I listened with my own ears unfiltered. And I met the people in those crowds of all races who were all proudly flying an American flag on their head and had so much pride to be an American. Because Trump's messaging is that we are all one under the same banner. The other team's messaging is that we are oppressed, the white patriarchy, LGBTQ, trans, division, oppression, poor me, I'm a victim, we're slaves, we're not getting our fair share. Meanwhile, that's the same class of people profiting from the stock market. Nancy Pelosi making billions, Chuck Schumer, all these guys, insider trading, and getting away with it scot-free. The Bidens, the Obama, everybody, Clintons, you name it. They're all profiting and are wealthy billionaires. Millionaires, mostly. Maybe even billionaires, I don't know. We don't know what money is unaccounted for, right? And they're the same ones pushing that ideology of oppression and victimization, and we gotta go after Trump because these billionaires keep getting away with everything. But they're the same billionaires. They're the same rich people who took advantage of America and the systems in America, pushing this agenda of like, we need to get our fair share. Meanwhile, what evidence is there of the United States taking the tax money and actually using it for the upliftment of this country? See, the Trump camp, they're talking about smaller government, abolishing institutions that waste money, privatizing as much as we can in the market. Now, is that ideal? Me personally, not really. I think it should be a mixture of ideas, but because of the severity of the ideology I see coming from the blue camp, the blue tribe. Let's call them the blue tribe because they're not leftist. When I was growing up, leftist meant a whole different thing. Being woke meant a whole different thing. Now, it's like you have the radical blue tribe and somewhat the radical red tribe. But just so happens the radical red tribe seem to be making more sense to me. They seem to be talking about, hey, let's make this economy stable. Let's make sure the dollar is strong again. Let's make sure our people can afford to buy a house. And let's put economic policies in the ghettos and try to make it incentivize businesses to create businesses in the ghettos so that the money would circulate in those areas. And let's lower the cost of healthcare and whatever, right? They're talking a whole different ballgame. And when you go over here, they're like, Orange Man bad. He's Hitler. We hate him. And abortion, racism, transgender issues. Trump's evil. And that's their campaign platform. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make all this lead up to politics, but I had to find a way to get you to understand why I am where I'm at. Because it was a direct experience. It was a journey I went through. Having to go to one of these events and come home and watch them cut up the scene into a manipulative way to twist his words and make it seem he was saying something else. And then when you try to have conversations with these people about why you take the stance you take, they begin to attack you. And from the time I perceive the attack, I realize at this point, I'm talking to someone who just doesn't want to have to hear anything or try to understand. They just want to be part of a tribe. I wasn't even looking for a tribe. I wasn't even trying to be part of any tribe. In fact, I'm still not part of any tribe because I'm just as critical with the other tribe when I encounter situations where I have to give my opinion. Like we disagree on the Israel-Palestine thing over here on the so-called red tribe. So I get into fights about that with them. I state my position clearly with them. Just as I do with the other tribe. I'm homeless. I'm politically homeless. I don't have a place because I have no one that represents me, honestly. But if it came down to choosing the closest ideology that I'm willing to support, it's gonna have to be the Trump guy. That's where I'm at. Whether you like it or not, that's where I'm at. I like RFK, but I don't think he could win the election. If you think he can, I'm all game. I'll vote for RFK. I liked Vivek Ramaswamy. He was good. I loved Tulsi Gabbard, but she got kicked out of the Democratic movement because they said she wasn't toeing the line. So apparently it's against the rules to be critical of your own party. So they kicked her out. See, I pay attention, people. I pay attention to who the players are, who are the people that have been shunned and kicked out of society. Those are the people I pay attention to. I don't agree with all of them all the time, but I pay attention because when our culture, our society, our government, the establishment goes after certain people, the first question in my mind is why? Why are you going after that person? So now you've made me curious. I want to go absorb every inch of information I can about that person's way of thinking. What are they speaking about? What philosophy are they projecting out? What's the narrative that they have themselves? Not what the media told me about them. That means nothing to me. I go hunt them down. I look for their books. I look for their documentaries. I look for them on podcasts, talking, expressing their views. Because I want to hear from their mouth. Who are they? When they told me don't listen to Steve Bannon, he was a white racist nationalist. I went and I looked up Steve Bannon. I read his books. I watched his podcast and I was like, this guy is intelligent. This guy has some good points about the United States and our interaction in the world. And some policies that we should consider. And I thought, that's an intellectual conversation. This man is an intellectual. But he was shunned. So now that raised another red flag. Why was he shunned? So I had to do some more digging. And I found out that just so happens that the philosophy and the ideas that he's promoting goes against a larger agenda that other people have for this country. It's a different topic. Then I heard about Jordan Peterson. Don't listen to Jordan Peterson. He's a white racist nationalist. He was seen taking a photograph with a white racist nationalist. So then I go and I look him up. I investigate everything I can about Jordan Peterson. Turns out I end up liking the dude and what he has to say. Do I agree on everything he says? No. But you never do. But it does not take away the validity of his conversation, who he is as a human being, and what his contributions are to the earth, to us. He had a lot of great things to say. I learned a lot from him. And he went through his own strife, tribulations, his issues that he's had to learn from, which he shares in his book. Then they told me, don't listen to Alex Jones because he lied about Sandy Hook. Who doesn't make mistakes in reporting? Everyone does. Every national media station has a lawsuit or have had to retract a story and issues like that. But they started narrowing the laser focus on Alex Jones. So a flag went up. And what did I do? I went after everything I could find about Alex Jones. Turns out, man was almost 90% right about everything he reported from the early 90s till today. Except for the Sandy Hook thing. And if you dig into the Sandy Hook thing and why he was wrong about that, he was fed information that was wrong on purpose. Turned out to be an FBI plant in his ranks. So they entrapped him. Okay? But the fact that he was 90% right and got this 10% wrong showed me how biased the world is we live in. Because the establishment doesn't want you going to alternative media. They don't want you going to alternative ways of learning. They want you to go to university, to listen to the news channels that they own, to the schools that they own, to the scientists that they own. They don't want you going anywhere else. They don't want you going and finding out anything anywhere. That to me is a form of control and manipulation. And so I get a red flag for that. The minute the media tells me to stay away from someone, don't like someone, or they label someone, I do the opposite. In fact, I met an investor, a very successful stock trade investor years ago. You know what he told me the secret to his success was? He would watch Bloomberg and literally do the opposite of what Bloomberg reported. And he would make money every time. Think about that. So if Bloomberg tell you don't buy, he bought. And if Bloomberg said buy, he sold. And he was successful every step of the way for doing that. So let that sink in for a second, that he was using mainstream media and doing the opposite of whatever mainstream media told him, and he was successful. He nailed it every time. He literally said that was the secret. I just do the opposite of what the media reports, and I win. So think about that for a second. Think of how many poor suckers lose money because they trust these institutions to be honest with them, to tell them the truth. Right? Think of the amount of people being duped right now by the establishment that prides itself on being the source that you can come to for trustworthy information that will help improve your life. So not even with respect to investing, you can trust the mainstream. Because their job is to make sure that their people get what they have to get from it. Right? Think about that, guys. Stop. This is not a conspiracy. This is facts. This is the truth. You literally have to do the opposite of what they tell you to do to survive in this world. They're willing to walk you into the slaughter and take you to war. World War III, they're willing to let bombs drop because they can afford to go live in a bunker and clone themselves. They have the money and the wealth to go underground. And so the surface dwellers will suffer. That's the thinking of these people. And they own our institutions. They own the corporations. They own the media outlets that feed you the information you need for you to support a war somewhere in the world, to wave that flag and put it on your profile. Go Ukraine, go Russia, go Israel, go Palestine. They keep us against each other, divided. Think about that, guys. That's how easily manipulated and hackable we are. I say we because I also fall for it sometimes. I'm not immune. I'm just willing to make the journey. I'm just willing to say to myself that, wait a minute, I'm being told this. Is there a chance that what I'm being told is wrong or a lie or manipulative? And if so, why? Who's going to benefit from this war? Who's going to make money? Who's going to get money from these needles that they're giving people in their arms? What does it do to the human body? Was it tested? How long was it tested for? Are there any side effects? So apparently, asking questions now, the establishment does not like that. They don't even want you studying on your own. If you could become a programmer, a plumber, electrician by watching a YouTube video and practicing yourself at home, and you make yourself learn something, that's like a taboo thing for them. They want you to pay thousands of dollars and go to school, have all this debt when you graduate, and be stuck and trapped paying this off until you die. Slavery all over again. Anything that removes the choice from you is slavery. Anything that says you have to do it this way, otherwise, is slavery. And if we're going to stand up for the ideals of what we call America, the United States, we got to be willing to question that, to ask the questions, to seek out within ourselves and with each other. We have enshrined the most important constitutional right at the beginning of our Constitution, which is the right to free speech. How many of you know why that's there? Have you ever stopped to ponder and think about it? Have you stopped to go deep into thinking about why did they write these amendments into the Constitution? Why were these written? And play it out in sequence. That was a gift, guys. That is a beautiful thing. To have the right to say and express yourself and to defend yourself if you have a problem with what I say. And to have due process if you accuse me of the things you say or try to come at me. I can have due process. And so on, and so on, and so on. Is it perfect? No. Can it be adjusted? Yes. But that's going to take a whole lot more conversations and willingness to be transparent and honest with each other as we have these debates. Okay? All right, guys, I ranted for way too long. I really wanted to do this episode on Billy Carson, but I think I said all the things that he was probably going to say, maybe. I don't know. And I already ranted for too long, so I'm just going to stop, post it as is, and if it's viewed, it's viewed. If not, hey, I did my part. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. For those of you who have been like with me from the start, all 605 of you, I appreciate you guys. And I know you guys are supporting and in the best way you can. But we're up against an algorithm and a system that censors people. It blocks people from getting their message out, from expressing their point of view, that goes against the mainstream narrative. That's just the facts. So, I mean, meanwhile, you got people shaking their butt and doing nonsense, and they're getting promoted like nothing. Well, you got people like me who try to come out and express their sentiment and give an alternative view on something, and we get shunned or ratioed. You understand what I'm saying? The only place I'm seeing traction right now that I uncensored is X, and that's since Elon Musk took it over, and True Social and TikTok somewhat. I kind of get traction, and then my vlog channel, since I'm not really talking about anything like I talk about here, that seems to be doing well as well. So, I try to diversify myself a little bit, but anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for being on the show. I love you guys. I appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for listening, guys. Peace out.